Hey everyone, I'm F. Gardner. I'm the author of Call of the Crocodile and the Horrors Call series of books. Yeah, so ever since publishing Call of the Crocodile, everybody's been asking me, hey F. Gardner, why don't you make like a YouTube series of videos or maybe like a podcast or something like that? So that's kind of what I'm doing now. I figured, yeah, maybe I could talk about how when I first started writing Call of the Crocodile and the rest of my books, like how that all started and what I did that led me to the success, and now it's like a hit novel and everything like that, and the rest of my books. So yeah, maybe people could learn from what I did, and I can give some tips here and there. Yeah, so my whole experience with that when I started writing Call of the Crocodile, it was in the middle of the whole pandemic thing or whatever. So I figured, yeah, this might be a good time to start trying to write a book. I had thought about it before, like a lot of people have, and I thought, yeah, I mean, might as well since I wasn't sure what was going on, and like it was indoors more like everybody when it like started. So that led to me writing all these books. I have 13 horror novels now, and called The Crocodile. That was my first one. So that was the biggest hit. It's a really popular title, so I'm really thankful for all the success I've had. And yeah, it's pretty surreal. People asking me questions like, yeah, you should, like, for this, for example, how I should start talking about what led to that and what I did right, what I learned. Yeah, so when I first started writing, one of the things that occurred to me, and this is going to sound maybe kind of crazy, but it's true, is that writing itself is like a supernatural thing. Like what I mean by that is you'll start getting ideas for like where to take the plot and everything, and you can't really explain it. So when I started writing Call of the Crocodile, when I first started drafting that novel, I had some nightmares, and that kind of led to it. I don't use outlines. I don't really think that's needed. I know some people swear by using outlines, and that's fine, to each their own, but yeah, I don't really need it. I'm not convinced it's necessary, but yeah, I had some scary dreams, some nightmares when I first started writing Call of the Crocodile, and that was like the main sort of inspiration initially. So right off the bat, I was having, around this time the pandemic started, these really vivid like dreams that it was like almost like a full narrative, the full like narration pretty much in my head, like as dreams. And I started writing, and it happened more and more, like even more frequently. And that's what I started to notice, is that the more you do it, the more stuff like that will happen to you. That writing is like a supernatural thing. And I think that happens with like a lot of artistic endeavors. Like, for example, let's say an actor, he's in the zone or whatever, like he can feel it, he's giving a great performance. I think it's kind of like that, but it's like a supernatural thing that you can't like fully explain. But yeah, it's very real, and it's hard to put into words or even understand it until you start experiencing it yourself. And yeah, when that happens, the biggest mistake you can do is not act on it. Yeah, not acting on inspiration is like probably the biggest mistake in terms of writing. That and trying to force it. Like I always hear people all the time, like they'll say like, oh yeah, you should write this many words a day, 1,000 words, 2,000 words, whatever. Um, I don't really think that matters. Some people, it's kind of like outlining. They swear by it, and it works for them. But it's like for myself, when I feel like I'm in the zone or whatever, when I'm really feeling it, I could write like thousands of words in pretty much a single sitting. And then I could take a break and come back to it and just consistently do it like that whenever I want to, because I know when to act when I'm getting this sort of inspiration. And I've heard different theories about, well, what is that? What do you mean, this zone, this inspiration? Yeah, I have a couple different theories. I mean, like at the time, I remember wondering, is this like yeah, is this like a paranormal thing? And I guess it is, because you can't really put it into words. And yeah, there are various theories, like, is it God himself giving you ideas? Is it angels? Is it whatever you want to call it, your higher self, like they say in like the Alcoholics Anonymous, they have the higher self, or higher power, that sort of thing. Is it this higher power, however you imagine it to be, giving you these ideas? God or angels, Buddha, whatever. Like, is that sort of our mind trying to anthropomorphize what that is? And it's, at the end of the day, you can't define it. Any way you're going to try to define it, it's going to be incomplete, but something supernatural is going on that you can't put into words. So there's definitely something to it, and when you start doing it, you'll definitely experience it. Like, time after time again. It wasn't just Call of the Crocodile, it was all my other books too. I experienced the same thing. I had all these ideas. It was like all of a sudden I'm getting, not like hearing voices or anything, but it's like you get the sensation where it's like, yo, F. Gardner, maybe you should write about this. What if your next horror novel, this happens? What if instead of a crocodile is a kangaroo, and then this happens? That led to me writing Hunger the Kangaroo, one of my other horror novels. So yeah, every now and then you'll get a little bit of inspiration, but sometimes it could come to you like in a dream, where it's just like the full narrative, and it's totally supernatural and paranormal, and you can't explain it. So I first started doing that during the pandemic, and in the midst of that, I wrote, I think, my first 5 books. I released them all like pretty much simultaneously. It was 2020. The first 5, and then here and there I wrote the other ones after that. And there's absolutely a supernatural element to it that you can't quite put into words. And but once you start doing it, you'll definitely experience it and know what I'm talking about then. And then I decided, well, I'll release my books. What's the next step? I need to get the word out there. So I figured, I've been going on 4chan since, I think, like 2008. So there's like 4chan and Reddit. And I already knew about like Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, the main places you might think, like Google. The main places, Google, Instagram, the main places you would think to advertise. But I thought, oh yeah, what if I got ads on 4chan and Reddit? And I did that, and apparently, this is this is surreal for me. So like, I was the first ever person to think of putting ads for their books on 4chan. And 4chan's been out since, I think, like 2003, which is like, might as well be like 300 years in terms of the internet. That's like for forever. So virtually 20 years, I was the first one to do that. I don't mean that in like a bragging or like arrogant way. That's just facts. I was the first guy to do that. And that's part of it. The content of my books, of course, helps. The stories, that's the single most important part. And the covers too, I really like to try to make them snap out at you. So I spent a lot of time doing the covers. A lot of people think they're like chalk, but they're actually colored charcoal. That's what I use for my covers. So I wanted a way to stand out, and that's definitely important. So utilizing things like 4chan and Reddit by comparison. You can still use the other Amazon, Facebook, the stuff like that, but I was kind of thinking outside the box, since the horror novels I write, they're already really weird. Like, I base them on not just nightmares and dreams I have, but also I mix in like conspiracies and urban legends, and like they all take place in Chicago, and that's where I'm from, that's where I live. So I thought that'd be cool to kind of mix in, what are some urban legends I could mix in, and conspiracies that are popular, and I can mix it in and have a supernatural, like sinister plot going on in Chicago. So and yeah, that was the initial setup and everything, the genesis for my series, how I started writing, and I still try to implement things like that to this very day. Yeah, so hopefully people can learn from the things I'm saying here, and yeah, it's surreal once you start experiencing the success like this, and noticing that writing is like absolutely a supernatural thing. That writing, it happens supernaturally. There's talent to it, like, but it's not as simple as like you just take some writing classes, and that can help, but you're not going to know how to do it till you actually sit down and do it yourself. It's like the experience, that's the best way. So, and that's what I did. I had, back in college, I had some writing classes, sure, but you could take all the writing classes in the world and you're not going to be as experienced as you would be if you write a manuscript. That's immeasurably greater, like in terms of the actual experience you'll have. You have immeasurably more experience from like doing the manuscript yourself, drafting the manuscript, than if you took every single writing course that exists on this earth, past, present, future, or otherwise, whatever. That's the single best way. Like, I guess most things in life is based on experience. That's just the truth. So yeah, I guess those would be my main recommendations, is to try to think outside the box kind of stuff like I did. So that's absolutely part of what made my series, my books, stand out, like Call the Crocodile and all my other books. And yeah, and the further you go on, you'll notice too that like you'll have some ideas that you like, and you might have trouble fitting them in. Like when I was writing Call the Crocodile, I had some scenes that I was worried could be too much like action, in the sense of like fighting, and that led to Call of the Kappa, my second book, and it's also horror, but it has like a martial arts element to it, so that led to that. And then Call of the Arcade, my third novel, I had some ideas that were too sci-fi, too science fiction-esque, and they just didn't fit in Call of the Crocodile or Call of the Kappa. So I thought, oh well, this is perfect. What if I wrote a horror novel that wasn't just horror, but it was also science fiction? So I thought, oh, I could do that, and that led to that, and it kind of repeated itself as a combination of that and all the supernatural elements that are just going to come to your brain. It's like they're beamed to your brain somehow when you start doing this. Yeah, and like I've heard other theories about, like, so for example, law of attraction or chaos magic. Those are like contemporary terms based on like old things that like the ancient Chinese talked about the same stuff basically. So where it's like you think about something, it'll like manifest itself into reality, like you believe it and everything. So it's like I was thinking about these dreams I had for ideas or something like that, and then I'm writing it down, and it's like you generate it into reality, into, even though it's horror fiction I write, I try to base them on like real things, or at least real urban legends and conspiracies. And then if you listen to this voice, or this, when you're in the zone, when you start getting ideas, you act on it, and it's like you get a response. You get another message, another supernatural, paranormal beam to your brain, where it's more ideas, more inspiration. Like when people say they're inspired, when they're feeling inspiration, it could be a musician, it could be a novelist such as myself, it could be an actor, whatever, architect. I get almost most professions, I guess. It's not necessarily limited to the arts, but it certainly happens there, perhaps the most frequently. Yeah, so the more and more you do it, you'll find out, yeah, writing is a supernatural profession. It's not as simple as you just sit down and you force yourself to write thousands of words. Like whatever, you could write people that decide to write 500 words a day or 5,000 words a day. It's not as simple as forcing it. You can't force inspiration. At least I don't think so. I've written 13 books. I didn't force any of that. That was pure inspiration where I acted on it. And I knew that I was getting inspiration. I was in the zone. And I thought, oh, F. Gardner, you can't just miss this boat. You can't just not act on it. You need to sit down and draft, continue drafting your manuscript, continue manifesting this into reality. So that's how it happens. That's just the truth of things. The more you do it, the more you act on it, the more you'll get results. And that's definitely, absolutely by supernatural means. It can't be explained. And I know people think that's unscientific. What do you mean it can't be explained? Well, I don't care. Lots of things are true that science can't explain, and I'll get into that in perhaps another video about, or whatever, reality versus science, or whatever I decide to call it. And but I wanted to keep the focus on this video, my debut episode, to talk about the actual craft of writing, and from my own experience and what everybody else can learn from me. Because if I could do it, if I could write numerous novels that are famous across the earth, which I have, like Call the Crocodile and the rest of my books, if I could do this, if I could become a famous novelist, so can all of you, so can every single person watching these videos. But you need to heed my words, because I'm trying to teach you. You need to learn from what I'm saying. That this was my experience, and my experience has told me that writing is supernatural. So if someone says otherwise, it's not that they're lying to you. It's just that they don't know. They haven't done it. They haven't experienced this supernatural zone, the surge of information that'll get sent to your brain when you're writing. So kind of like, I guess, when people say when they pray, it's like, oh, my prayers are answered. It's sort of like that kind of thing. Or you could think of it as like law of attraction. You think about it, and it manifests itself into reality. And that's the truth, yeah. So basically, long story short, writing is supernatural. If you start getting ideas that you can't explain, don't think they're crazy. You need to sit down and write. Don't dismiss it. Don't think, oh yeah, I'll remember that later, or I should make a note of that. I mean, you could make notes of that, but act on it. That's the single most important thing in that regard, is to act on it. Anyway, I hope you guys liked the video. Hopefully this will become a regular thing, and I'll keep doing it some more. Bye, guys.